Hey, everybody, and welcome to the virtual wholesaling training. My name is Kevin Seeley. I will be the instructor for this event. I'm going to go ahead and give it about another minute, maybe 60 seconds here before we officially kick off, just to allow some of the latecomers to pop in. So if you could just hang tight, we'll go ahead and get started shortly. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Again, my name is Kevin Seeley. I will be your instructor this afternoon for the virtual wholesaling training. I'd like to just go ahead and jump right into things. I know a lot of you have things to do, and I'm not sure where you're at in the country, but it's a beautiful day here. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, what will you learn today? So the ultimate goal for me today is I want to cover multiple bullet points, but these are the key ones. What is real estate wholesaling? I think you understand what wholesaling is in general, but I want to show you how it relates to real estate, the wholesale process and how to do it virtually, and how to find deals, or what we call those hidden houses in the market, how to find cash buyers, and then probably the most important bullet point here on the screen is how you can make money. So ultimately, this is a great strategy to get started and in the real estate arena. And today is going to be one of those days where we'll be able to go through all the nuts and bolts for you. All right. So what exactly is wholesaling? So according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, the definition of wholesaling is when a merchant middleman who sells chiefly to retailers, other merchants, or industrial and commercial users, mainly for resale or business use. Okay, so that middleman between the individual creating it and the end user. So you want to be the middleman in the transaction. You always want to be the middleman in the transaction. Wholesaling is a game that we make it relative to the real world, and in the sense of there are multiple board games. I'm sure you've maybe played Monopoly before, Yahtzee, Candyland, Chutes and Ladders, whatever it may be. And in the real estate arena, there are so many different strategies, or let's make it relative and say board games, right? Today, we're going to focus on wholesaling, which is just one of 40, 50 plus type strategies in real estate that you can do. So today's board game is all about wholesaling, and it's a game that you can play in most markets in the United States with minor adjustments. So for those of you on this training that may be in South Florida right now, or in Seattle or California, you could be doing deals anywhere in the United States with just a few tweaks. So I know we covered the definition of wholesaling, but there's three other key terms that you'll see in the lower left-hand corner that I want to make sure that you are aware of so that you are set up for the rest of this particular training. So first and foremost, notice of default. I'll be using that term quite a bit. That is a notice of default is just what it says. It is a notice that you are in default of your mortgage or your agreement, right? Foreclosure is when the bank actually comes and seizes the property and you no longer own the property. And then pre-foreclosure is sort of in that gray area there from the time that you receive the notice of default until the bank actually comes and takes the home or property away from you. So those are some other three key terms that I'd like you to understand. Today is all about wholesaling, but in the real world, when you actually implement this strategy, you may hear people say or refer to it in something different. I'm going to use the word wholesale and assignment a lot today. Those are really the main terms that you'll hear, but you may also hear snap flip, quick flip, or ABC deal. Okay, so those are just some of the other names that you may hear out there. And in the wholesaling arena, there are several components, and there's actually 5 major components to that. You're going to have the motivated seller, the wholesaler, so in this case you, the cash buyer, sometimes you'll need a lender, and then of course the closing process so that you can actually go ahead and take the check home with you. So wholesaling, as I mentioned, is just one game, okay? All the different games have different benefits and different outcomes, okay? Whether it's Chutes and Ladders or Candyland. The same thing with wholesaling. And some of these benefits of this particular board game is it's great because there are so many folks who want to get involved in real estate, but they either don't know how or they don't have the money. You can get into wholesaling with little to no money out of pocket. In fact, today I'm going to focus on no money. Credit is a non-issue. It does not matter to me whether you have a 520 credit score or an 820 credit score. It does not matter. This is a quick cash strategy. It happens very quickly, a lot faster than on a traditional mortgage or a fix and flip or something a little bit more robust like in the commercial arena. Little to no risk. Huge for me. You're significantly limiting your risk compared to some of the other board games or other strategies out there. And then finally, it's a catalyst for moving forward to the next phase of whatever you decide to do in the real estate arena. That to me is such a critical bullet point and a game changer for me, absolute game changer for me. So I'll give it a second there. Those are the 5 sort of benefits to wholesaling. Now, in the investing arena, there are 3 types of income: earned income, passive income, and portfolio income. And you'll see I have a little pie chart here on the screen. These 3 types of income, I generalized it to investing, but I'll translate it to real estate. Earned income is just that. It's something that you earn and you'll never see again. So let's say you work a 9 to 5 and you are a salaried position. You received your paycheck on Friday. You will not see any additional income from that particular week's worth of work. It's earned. Passive income is when you sit back and you constantly have some sort of cash flow, some sort of revenue coming in on a regular basis, okay? And then the third one is portfolio. And that's really when you grow your passive strategies. You know, you might hear of a modeling portfolio or an investment portfolio. It just means a whole bunch of things in one spot. So for today, we're going to focus on earned income, and you'll see that's phase 1. And I have in there wholesale, quick flip, fix and flip, stuff like that. Cash flow, that's more about in the rentals, seller finance, maybe short-term rentals like an Airbnb. And then ultimately portfolio is really where you want to have, instead of 1 rental, let's get 10, 20, 30 rentals. I like to do a lot with student housing. In fact, that's probably my number 1 strategy I'm most passionate about. I could talk to you for days on student housing. So for me, I would, work with students on building out a portfolio where they have multiple student housing facilities that are generating that portfolio passive income. Okay, so those are the 3 pies. I want you to, take a good look at that. We're going to revert back to that a couple of times today, but earned income is what we're focusing on. Let's talk numbers. Okay, so I'm going to go through today an amazing strategy that some of you are aware of. Some of you, this is the first time you're embarking on, but let's make it real and see how it is reflective. Numbers talk. Currently, in the United States, there are 10 million plus properties in pre-foreclosure. Okay, pre-foreclosure. 17.8 million people, and that number is as of 2 days ago, are still unemployed in the United States. Not sure where that number is going to go. No one really does. But the way that the environment is, we're not sure. So we need to take a little bit more control. And then the last one there, you'll see that over 14 million properties are in a distressed situation. Now, I highlighted the keyword distressed there because we're going to go into a little bit more detail about the types of triggers that make someone fall into a distressed situation. But 14 million. The inventory is there, folks. So if you're sitting at home wondering, is there anybody in my hometown or is there anybody, down the street? Yes, the numbers are there. Okay. And the next question that I get a lot is why now? And all of this stuff is foundational before we jump into our next or first strategy here. But why now? Is now a good time? And if you haven't seen the news, which I'm sure we all have, COVID is out there. And you're probably wondering, with COVID still thriving, and in fact, some places growing exponentially, is now a good time to be wholesaling? And quite honestly, the black and white answer is yes. Yes. Right now is the best time to be in real estate. Bar none, end of story, period. It's the best time. Whether it's wholesaling, if you're going to look at short-term rentals, rentals in general, student housing, fix and flip, it doesn't matter. Smart investors are taking advantage of the current chapter that we're in and pouncing on these opportunities, folks. That old saying, when the iron's hot, strike. Well, the iron is glowing red right now. It's so hot. So it's a great time to get involved in real estate. So overview, let's go ahead and get started. There's 3 types of sellers in a wholesale strategy. The ones that want to sell their house, the ones that need to sell their house, and the ones that have to sell their house. We're going to focus on number 3 today, the ones that absolutely must sell their home. So those are the 3 types of sellers in the market. And the ones that must sell their home, you're wondering how they get into that distressed situation. Okay. Well, I have listed here what we call the 7Ds, or the distress triggers that has someone get into that situation where they just absolutely must sell. And you'll see debt, death, disease, divorce, drugs, denial, disaster. Okay. Disaster, naturally, I put, is very relevant to today's environment with COVID and the coronavirus and just changing the world. Very relevant trigger. But also, disease. I was impacted several years ago with a major health crisis that changed my life. Ultimately, a lot of folks, don't pull through and survive, not just physically, but financially. So that's another one. Divorce, drugs is a big one. And also, I want to just a little fun story here. Actually, it made me chuckle the first time I heard it. I live both between the Northeast in Pennsylvania and in Florida. I go back and forth. I like the warm, sunny climates, but I also love my family. So I'm back and forth. And one time I was at Starbucks with my laptop working, and there was a nice couple there, probably in their late 70s, if I had to guess. Very well put together with their wits of them. And we got chit-chatting about what I do. And she said, us snowbirds, or the folks that retire and move to the warmer climates, they call Florida God's waiting room, because the life cycle happens. We're born, we live life, we get old, we go to Florida and retire, and then we pass away, and we're waiting to go see God. So I chuckled when I heard that story the first time, but when you think about it, there are several key states that are those snowbird retirement states. Nevada, Arizona, Florida are the top 3 states right now for that. Now, picture an elderly couple in their late 70s living in Florida. They probably bought the house for cash, maybe took out a small mortgage. But ultimately, let's say one of them passes away and the other one needs that cash. They must sell because they need that cash to go to an assisted living facility or maybe a retirement facility. On the flip side of the coin, let's say both of them pass away. They typically will leave that property, hopefully they've done it right and left it in a will, to maybe their kids or a family friend or relative, and they don't live in the area. They may still live in the Northeast where it's cold and snowy, but they don't want to deal with that property because ultimately they're responsible for the mortgage, if there is one, taxes, homeowners association, mowing the grass. They may just want to just dump it. So they're in a distressed situation where they want to move that property quickly. So those are the 7 what we call distress triggers. Okay. Now we're about to jump into our first strategy. And before we do that, though, I want to go through one of the legal stuff. That's just to get this off the plate because we have to do this. And I want to be as compliant and I want to be as real with you as possible. Okay, so all the things that we're going to cover today, all the numbers I'm going to show you are hypothetical scenarios. They are for educational purposes only. The homes that I will show you are classified as pre-foreclosures, so they're legitimate opportunities. But the actual numbers we're going to go through naturally would vary depending on the individual doing them. So before you do anything, it's really good that you independently evaluate any investment you do to help protect yourself and limit your risk. So just to make sure, for the following examples that we're going to cover today in this training, they're all just for conceptual learning example sake. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that there are 5 main components to a transaction, but there's actually 3 main parties involved: the distressed homeowner, the wholesaler or the middleman, which would be you, and then the cash buyer. Okay. So distressed homeowner in this situation, we have, for example, Joe and Jessica. They both work for a major hotel chain. The coronavirus hit. They both were unemployed, and now they're over 90 days late on their mortgage, and they received their first notice of default. So one of the things that we do here at Hidden Houses is everything is relative. Gary Vaynerchuk, if you don't know him, definitely Google him. He's an amazing business person, has done so much, really a great motivator as well. But Gary said a long time ago, innovate or die. That's it. You have to change and adapt to the environment. So I want to create these scenarios so that it is absolutely relative to the current environment, so that we, as a educator, I want to make sure that you understand this. So I want to make it relative. And in this case, COVID is unfortunately a very relative scenario. Going into pre-foreclosure and then eventually potentially foreclosing puts the individuals in a very bad spot. It will impact their credit significantly. It will diminish their hopes of securing a mortgage in the future, and tremendous loss of equity. Some of these homes have incredible amounts of equity. So I say that because the American dream is home ownership, especially for a young couple with kids. We want to have that home that we can build. So as an investor, we're also going to help folks, not just make money, but we're also going to help folks. So on this scenario, this is our first property. Okay. It is located in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. It is traditional single family, which is your sweet spot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single family. Very, nice home, looks structurally well put together, but this will be our example for the day. So on the screen right now, you'll see a screenshot or screen capture that I took from some of the tools that I use. Okay. Don't worry about that right now. You're probably wondering, how can I get access to that? Don't worry about that. I'm going to go through everything today. You don't need access, but I want to just show you this for true example sake. All right. You'll see that there are several white boxes on the screen with little green boxes. Okay. The box in the very center of the screen, the middle box of the top 3, has some green boxes in there, and it says the estimated value of this property is $157,000, a little over $157,000. But if you look over to the far right, the right box in the last section there says that the estimated mortgage balance is a little over $46,000. So with that said, there's about $110,000 in equity in this property. That is huge. Now, for some of you on this training, you may live in an area, let's say Los Angeles, San Diego, Denver, Houston, Chicago, where home prices are not $157,000. That's okay. These are all numbers. These are all simply numbers. Now, naturally in California, you might be dealing with a home 800,000 plus for a single family. And I'm going to go through a second scenario today that will make it relative to those markets. But regardless, it's all a numbers game, and you can do it anywhere in the United States. So here, like I said, $110,000 potential equity in this property. Okay, so let's go ahead and run the numbers. All right, you found your distressed seller. That's step one. Okay, now you, the wholesaler, are going to go through and run these numbers. We have a mortgage balance of a little over $46,000. You want to make money on this deal. So you're going to have an assignment fee. Remember that word I used before, assignment fee, for $4,000. Negotiated profit of $9,000. And then closing costs of approximately $2,400. Now I want to back up one line item there. You're probably wondering, what's that negotiated profit for $9,000? Well, I remember earlier when I mentioned about Joe and Jessica, the individuals in this scenario. You don't want to just be the investor. You also want to help these people. So you're really wearing two hats: real estate investor, business person, and superhero. Put your cape on and help these people, okay? Remember, if they're behind that far on their mortgage, they're probably also behind or distressed on their car payment, maybe some of their other credit card bills, utilities, whatever it may be. So to put some money in their pocket is a game changer. I could remember, one of the first deals that I was interacting with, and I call it the snot cry. And I don't mean to be unprofessional or gross, but I call it the snot cry, because handing somebody a check for $9,000 is an absolute game changer, especially since they've probably been berated the last couple of weeks or months with other phone calls and such. And they were so emotional. And I'll tell you, that ultimately was one of the greatest feelings ever. In fact, I'm getting goosebumps just now telling you this story, because folks, you can help a significant amount of people while making money. So looking at these numbers here, those are the four main things that we're going to incorporate there. So you're looking at around $62,154. Okay. Now, when you run the numbers like this, the next phase is proposing it to a cash buyer. Okay. So you're going to call a cash buyer and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Cash Buyer, my name is so-and-so, and I have a property located on XYZ Street for about $157,000. I'm willing to sell it to you today for $63,000. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to look at the property, look at the numbers, check out and make sure it's a viable deal. Then they're going to come to the conclusion that after doing all this work, which includes, rehab, holding, closing costs, etc., which you don't need to worry about at this stage, but they're going to come to the conclusion that they can make about $94,000. Therefore, if it's the right fit, they'll say yes and move on. So that's really how that transaction goes. There's you find the distressed property, you run the numbers, and then in this scenario here, simply offer it to a cash buyer. Now, throughout the training today, I'm going to have what I call these pro tips, okay? A couple of things that I think are just absolutely critical to help you throughout this process, okay? Now, this pro tip here is make sure that you take the time to get that distressed property under contract. This will help protect you from potentially losing that deal to someone else, okay? Yes, you're sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute, $4,000, they're an assignment fee that they're giving me for basically just doing some paperwork. Couldn't they just go right to the distressed homeowner? And yes, they could. But if it's under contract, you secure the property. It's yours to deal with, no one else's. So that's just one of the pro tips. Make sure that you have it under contract, okay? So the next part of this is, how do you get paid? How do you get paid in this deal? So remember, we offered it to the cash buyer for $63,000. It's then going to go to the title company. Now, earlier we mentioned those 5 components. The title company is one of those components, okay? And they basically accept fees, make sure all the paperwork's in order, just some of those little rough edges there. Once they receive all that stuff and organize it, they are going to then disperse the funds accordingly. So they're going to accept the $63,000. Then they're going to write a check to whoever's holding the mortgage. That needs to be paid off in full before it can transfer from one name to another. So that's a very important thing that needs to be taken care of. Then they're going to write a check for your fee, in this case, $4,000. Then they're going to write a check to the distressed homeowner for the seller profit of $9,000. And then the miscellaneous closing fees, they'll divvy that up accordingly. So ultimately, this is how the flow will go, and this is how you get paid. Okay. Now, I want to hit back on what I said earlier. Why would you pay a cash buyer fee in the thousands of dollars? Couldn't they just go right to the distressed homeowner? And yes, and that's why I want to say, make sure that you get it under contract. Okay. And you also have to stop and think to yourself, put yourself in the cash buyer's shoes. Think about it this way. Would you be willing to write a check for $4,000 for someone to do all the legwork and get the right property for you, and you could potentially make over $90,000? I certainly would be more than happy to do that. And for some of you out there thinking, well, I want to have actual piece of the $90,000. Well, certainly could. That is a part of the earned income board games per se. It's a part of phase one, and fix and flip is very lucrative. However, not everyone is in the financial position to do something like that. It is a lot more risk, and it takes a lot more money out of your own pocket. Therefore, the individual cash buyer who's making the $90,000 in this example, they're the ones putting up a lot more risk, time, and money. So eventually you want to get there, but you want to make sure that you have that cushion of those safeguards first, okay? So that's wholesaling. That's the board game of wholesaling. And they take an average of 30 to 45 days. Now, they could happen sooner. I will not sit here today and tell you they all happen that way. I want to be very compliant and conservative and real with you. But if it happens before 30 days, that's icing on the cake. But 30 to 45 days, your actual window. Transactions are typically cash, so they happen a lot faster than if you were to get a traditional mortgage. And those of you who have been down that route, it's a longer process. The profit is determined by you. So in this last scenario that we just went through, I, for example's sake, put in $4,000, okay? You could change that. You could offer it as low as a $1,000 assignment fee, or a little bit higher if you wanted to. It really depicts and determines what the fee is on the amount of equity in that property. How much wiggle room do you have, okay? And also how quickly you want to make this happen. Another key nice benefit is you don't need to have a lot of money out of pocket money. In fact, if you do it the right way and work on an assignment deal, it's a simple, smooth process to transfer through that three-party system for you to make some money. So it's not like you need to have great credit to get a loan or tons of cash to buy the property. And that hits me on the next bullet point here. Good credit is not required. And again, it does not matter to anyone what your credit is. And it can be done virtually. More importantly, though, safely. I know with COVID right now, a lot of folks are at home. They don't want to bring things home. So they're distancing from their families and stuff. This is a great way, folks, to not really have to worry about exposing yourself and putting your safety at risk, okay? And bear in mind, you just made an assignment fee of $4,000 on this simple transaction, okay? Now, this particular game is you're going to be playing it on a regular basis, okay? So we here at Hidden Houses have what we call the deal ratio, okay? So for every lead that you reach out to, you're going to have to reach out to about 25 before you have that one lead actually close and put money in your pocket, okay? So you're going to hit 24 no's before you hit that yes, basically. One of the things I want to really hone in on is it's important to stay positive. Getting to hit no number 23 is not the most pleasurable feeling in the world, but it's imperative you keep going and be persistent. And also, I want to stress to you that these folks are in what they call a distressed situation, which means they're not only behind on their mortgage, but they're probably behind on their credit card, car, utilities, etc. So when you call them, they're not going to be in the best of moods. Yes, you can help them, but some folks are in denial and not really open to hearing that. Now, that's not to say ignore them and write them off. What I'm saying is circle back. For every notice of default these folks receive, they edge closer and closer to foreclosure, which means for every notice, they're also shaking in their boots a little bit more. So they're going to become a little bit more open down the road to potentially working with you. Okay, but 25 to 1 is a very good number. And you'll see on the very bottom of this screen here, I have a little magnifying glass there. And I want to tell you that later we're going to discuss, and I want to show you how you can potentially automate this. Okay, so that you're not reaching out to all of these deals and only closing one. Let's automate it so that you can truly magnify these results. If you could reach out to 100 people and close 4 deals and make on average $4,000 per deal, that's $16,000 in earned income. Okay, so I wanted to put that out there so you're very well aware. Not every single lead you reach out to will go to the next phase. Now, I do want to go through another phase scenario with you so you, again, truly understand the concept. But really quickly, I just want you to know a little bit about me and who I am. There's a very good chance I work with a lot of students. In fact, I oversee the acquisition of new students. So there's a very good chance we may talk over the phone, text, email, maybe even in person. So I want you to sort of have a visual of who I am and my background. So I've been in the real estate arena for about 15 years now. Okay, solid. It's actually been a little bit more than that, but I had to take 2 years off forcefully. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I had to take 2 years off. But I have a lot of experience in the real estate and business world. I have taught this in over 15 countries. I have visited 72 countries. Not that it matters, but I'm a travel freak. I love it. And this vehicle has allowed me to be able to do that. Student housing is really my forte. Student housing, storage units are my main forte. I love them. I know multiple aspects and multiple board games in the real estate arena, but those are my absolute favorite. And I own multiple businesses. You know, earlier I used the word catalyst to get me to the next step. And it really did allow me to grow some liquidity, money in my pocket to help grow and expand. And then, of course, Matt Larson. Most of you on here have heard of Matt, maybe even have his book and whatnot. But Matt is amazing with real estate. I have learned so much from him and vice versa. But he's truly an amazing partner to work with. But you'll see a little bit about Matt right there. But that last bullet point, my mentor. I am beyond blessed, beyond honored to sit here today to tell you that I have learned from Matt. And I want you to learn from Matt and myself and others. Learn from our mistakes so you could shorten that learning curve tremendously, shorten that waiting curve for money and capital tremendously, and let us help you with that. And being involved in such an amazing arena allows you to really rub elbows with the right people. There's an old saying that you are a direct reflection of the top 5 people that you hang out with the most, right? And this has opened doors for me and allowed me to really just hang out with the right people. On the screen now, you'll see that's me there in the center of the screen with Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. No, I was not on Shark Tank, but I have worked with Kevin in the past on some projects. Amazing individual. I mean, just walking in the room, no words are even spoken, and the energy is there. So it really does allow you to open doors and have some really good opportunities. When you're going through this process, you're here today for a reason. I don't know that reason. Only you know that reason. For most people, it's about money or taking control or something in that nature. But it's imperative, in my opinion, it's so important to not only have the vehicle in front of you, but the fuel or the passion to go along with it. So you need to understand your why. Why are you here today? Okay. And with that said, there I am in the center again. That's my little brother. He is a 2-time Olympian. He competed in Sochi in 14 and Pyeongchang in 18. And I don't know if you know much about amateur sports. They're a lot different than professional sports. he does not get paid like the NFL football players do. In fact, he gets paid nothing. So if he wants to have the ability to not only survive, but to embark on his sport and have the right tools and training and the support, he needs somebody there to help him. And that's where I come in. And I want to focus on my real estate journey and make money so I can support my brother and my family, but to ensure that he can achieve his goals. And what he's doing for the youth of our community and throughout the United States, really, he travels with the Luge team to help motivate children and inspire and get them off the streets and into something is great. So it really helps me become my fuel to keep going. And of course, you'll see there on the far right, another picture. Family is so important to me. I tell folks all the time that I will die someday a billionaire. But immediately when I say I'll die a billionaire, people use that or hear that word and associate it with money. And it's not. I will die with a billion memories. And all those memories have a different price tag and have much more value than anything else that you can put your hands on. And finally, that is a picture of me and my brother, and he's also my business partner. But in 2007, I was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer. Totally knocked me off my feet, literally. It massatized my spine, which prevented me from walking. So I was in a wheelchair, then a walker and a cane, and now I'm walking fine. But it was a 2-year process, folks. And I'll tell you, if I were in a situation where I had to go to a 9-to-5 job, I wasn't able to. So one of the reasons why I do what I do in the real estate arena is just to be prepared, take control, take stress off my plate. Having real estate in my life allowed me to focus on my health and well-being and not on where I was going to get my next penny from to pay my bills. So to me, that's another reason why I put so much effort into that. So let's get back into the meat and potatoes here. How to find deals. Okay. So you'll see on the screen there, Facebook Marketplace, great place. Craigslist. I know that website is a little barbaric. They probably haven't updated it much since they started, but it is an amazing resource. Kijiji. So if you are in the United States on this training right now, you probably never heard of Kijiji, but it's like a classifieds, but for Canada. A great place for people to go, not only Canadians, but Americans or Canadians living in America, to go and find those deals. And then underneath Kijiji there is a bandit sign. And for those of you who don't know what a bandit sign is, it's one of those sort of corrugated vinyl or corrugated plastic signs that you see in intersections and below stop signs that say things like, "We buy houses cash," or "We buy ugly houses," stuff like that. They are a little bit more legwork, certainly, than some of the other electronic stuff. And they are ugly, and you're probably thinking, why would I do that? But folks, they work. It's incredible how much they work. Now, when you go to these Facebook, Craigslist, Kijiji, you want to look for some keywords, and you can do searches for these keywords. And also, you could post your own ads on those sites with these keywords. But things like must sell, investment property, help. That simple one word, people will use that. Help. Investors needed and delinquent. Those are just some of the key words. Distress is also another word. But there's a handful of keywords that will help you sort of weed through the jungle of these particular websites. And as I mentioned earlier, pro tips. I love giving these pro tips. Here's a pro tip to find these deals. Use virtual assistants to magnify your results. Okay, that 25-to-1 ratio. You can go out there and hire a virtual assistant. They're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They work from anywhere. And when I mean anywhere on the planet, as long as there's internet. And they're very affordable. Some of the assistants that I have hired in the past are as low as $2 an hour. So incredible to help you magnify. It's not a necessary step right now throughout your wholesaling or this particular game that you're playing. But talk about magnification. It's absolutely incredible. Okay. So going back to that scenario in Pittsburgh, I want to go through the inventory. Okay. Currently, Now, this is just Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So they have to have Pittsburgh, PA in their address. It's not any of those outlying suburbs or little cities around Pittsburgh. But there are over 1,000, almost 1,200 pre-foreclosures in that area. Okay. You'll see on the screen there, the second box to the left where it says pre-foreclosures, 1129, 1,129. Now, those are pre-foreclosures only. I mentioned earlier the word distress. Not all distressed properties are in pre-foreclosure. Folks going through a divorce may be good on their mortgage, but they need to get rid of that property. It's a must for them. Also, you notice on those white boxes there with blue numbers, the second box from the right, it says vacant. There are almost 18,000 homes in the Pittsburgh area that are vacant, which could mean a numerous amount of things. Therefore, great opportunity for wholesale investors or those playing the wholesale game to go out and find the inventory. That's just Pittsburgh alone. You'll see below I have some other markets here, and these are just pre-foreclosures. I did not include the vacant properties in those numbers, but you'll see Dayton, Ohio, over 3,000. Los Angeles, over 7,000. Houston, Miami, 2,000 and 4,000 respectively. So just to show you those numbers as far as inventory, that's how you find those distressed homeowners. As a quick overview, distressed homeowner, that's how we just went through how to find them. Naturally, you are the wholesaler. And the third component of this is the cash buyer. Now, there are two main cash buyers you're going to deal with, the whales and the mom and pops, okay? And hopefully that visual sort of just really is a black and white of what the two differences are. Whales are huge. They're full-time flippers doing almost 100 flips a year, okay? The mom and pops, naturally, they're much smaller. They're the do-it-yourselfers. They haggle everything. Much smaller operation. Both are very viable cash buyers, okay? But those are the two that you'll be mainly dealing with. Cash buyers are typically local to the home. Almost all the time, you're going to see they're local to the home. Where a wholesaler can live anywhere and wholesale anywhere. You could literally go to the Bahamas or the south of France for vacation with your family and find properties and complete the transaction from there. Or you can lay in bed and do it. You don't need to leave the house. Regardless, you could do it anywhere. Where the cash buyer are typically a little bit more hands-on with the process, so they want to be local, especially the mom and pops, because they're doing a lot of the work themselves. They're the DIY, okay? Now, talking about cash buyers, how do we find them? So again, you'll see Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Kijiji listed there. Great resource to find them. But I also put on there a big for rent sign. Now, you're probably thinking, how does that for rent correlate to a cash buyer? To give you an example, you're driving down the street and you see a duplex or a side-by-side or a double home, whatever you call them in the region of the world that you live in. We call them double homes up here. But there's a for sale, or I'm sorry, a for rent sign in that the window of that property. That means someone owns the physical building, but the property itself, they're renting out for cash flow purposes. Therefore, they may be interested in buying another property, which means you could wholesale it to them. Also, if you're driving down the street and you see someone rehabbing a house that you don't know anything about that property, it's being rehabbed, but then 2 weeks later or a month later, you see a for sale sign in front of that house. That is a key indicator that someone bought that house, a cash buyer, bought that house, invested the time and money into it, and they are now selling it. So they probably got that home from a wholesaler for little to no money, paid the wholesale fee, put the money into it, and now they're flipping it. So that's why I put that for rent sign there, because I want you to just understand that concept there, okay? Just to show you some of the inventory. And another way here, another quick pro tip, virtual assistants. Great way to magnify your results. Finding cash buyers in any market, great way. Because remember, I mentioned about driving by a home and seeing a potential home under construction, but if you're living in Kansas, you're not going to know if there's a home in Raleigh, North Carolina available for or needs a cash buyer. So virtual assistants are a great way. Currently in Pittsburgh, and that's where that previous example was, there's a little under 25,000 cash buyers. And again, you'll see on that screenshot there, it's the fifth box from the right, fifth box from the left, fourth box from the right, a little over 24,000 cash buyers. Dayton, Ohio, those other markets, almost 35,000. Los Angeles, over 40,000. Houston, 116,000. Big market. Great market. Texas in general is a great market. Miami, almost 100,000 cash buyers. So just to show you folks, the inventory is out there. It's just matching them up, playing that game of matching them up and going through that whole process. Now, why wholesaling? I went through some benefits earlier, great benefits. Here are three other ones that I really like to hone in on. And again, it's a great way for new investors to get into the market with little to no credit. I got involved in a real estate game right after I turned 18, legal age in Pennsylvania to get your real estate license. Now, I eventually morphed into the investing and not the retail side, but age has no limit on this. Money or credit, it does not matter. It also provides quick cash and no long-term commitments. There are folks that I have dealt with over the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe even 3 months that I've been working with to try to close some deals because they need the cash now, that quick cash, okay? And then catalyst for moving forward. I rarely do wholesale deals now. I do, but not nowhere near as much as I did in the beginning, and you probably won't either. Remember, you want to move from that earned income piece of the pie to the passive income piece of that pie, and then grow that to a portfolio. Imagine wherever you're at right now, whatever chapter you're in right now, let's look at 5 years from now. If you had a portfolio of 10 homes generating you passive income, you would not be worried about what's coming next. And that brings me to why now? Well, the first one is why not? There's 7 days in a week, and someday is not one of those days. Do it now. Take action now. Are you ready? Are you ready to take control of, and I'm just going to say future, not just your financial future, but your future. There's all this talk about another wave of COVID coming. And you know, they just said in the news yesterday, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Are you ready? Number 3, there's jobs are downsizing on a regular basis. I have a snippet there from CNN Business about Tyson and other meat processors. They're talking about speeding up the plans for robot butchers, which equates to thousands of jobs being taken away. I also have a screenshot there, just a picture of McDonald's. You may not eat there, you may not work there, but it's so relative because we all know those golden arches, and we all can probably see the evolution of McDonald's from back in the day to today. You know, I know the local franchisee of the McDonald's in my hometown, and he said he's only hiring about 40% of the folks he used to when he first started. Automation, technology has taken away a lot of those jobs. So we need to be prepared for downsizing. Number 4 is work from home, which is a new one I recently added to this because so many folks now are working from home because of the pandemic. And a lot of these businesses, a lot of these corporations are looking at the positive impact of their employees working from home. They're more productive. They're happier. They actually work longer, but they don't feel like they're working longer. So a lot of folks may want to be considering to upsize their property so they have that space to be able to work from home. So again, that's where you can come in as a wholesaler, find that home below market, and then wholesale it to someone who wants to upsize their property. And then number 5, there's always need a place to live. Warren Buffett mentioned, you know, he said one of the reasons he attributes his success to is because he is invest in things people need, not what people want. And we need a place to live. We need a place to stay. Whether we are traveling, we need to stay in a hotel, Airbnbs, whatever it may be. Always need a place to live. And then number 6 is inventory. I showed you numbers of inventory of not only cash buyers, but more importantly, the inventory of homes that are in distress. And that number, folks, is growing on a regular basis, okay, especially with the chapter in the life that we're in right now. Now, naturally, I wanted to go through the concept with you today, which we did. We'll go through another scenario here shortly. But, we are here to help you through this process. There are a lot of other real estate education companies out there. I get it. But, just looking at some of the items that we have that make us sort of the industry leader is we have almost 100 years, almost a century of experience cumulatively within our organization. Over 4,000 homes wholesaled, 2,500 homes and more renovated, over 1,400 units managed and rented with an occupancy rate of 100%. That's huge. The industry leader in wholesale education. And you'll see that picture there I have to the right, and that's Tony Robbins in the middle, if you didn't recognize him. But Tony is a mastermind and a motivator beyond belief. But Tony was ready to up his game a little bit, per se, and he wanted to make sure that he understood real estate and practiced it before he preached it and motivated folks on it. So he actually reached out to Matt and worked with Matt for a couple of days inside and out and implemented the strategies. And here's a quote I have from Matt saying, "I've done some deals with Matt. There's not a smarter guy in the single family home market than him right now." And that's Tony Robbins, an incredible motivator, and also just a really home run for us and a great testimony. And one last thing here, we work as a team. There's no I in team. We all work together. And one of my business partners, Brock, and I work with some students, and we received this really awesome email from Paul. It says, "Dear Brock and the A team, there is the deal I found. The house was for sale by owner. They were asking $50,000. We went back and forth and settled on $26,500. After getting it under contract with a very small amount of refundable earnest money, I showed the property to a prospective buyer 3 days later and assigned the deal over to him for $6,000 assignment fee. I tell you, I'm floating on cloud nine." Folks, I went through a scenario with you earlier that had a realistic conservative number of $4,000 profit. Paul here just stated $6,000 assignment fee in 3 days. Now, I'm not going to hone in on that 3 days because I want to be compliant and conservative and real. You're looking at a 30, 45-day window. But folks, can you imagine $6,000 on an assignment fee? This is about you. This is not about me. This is not about Tony Robbins, Matt, or my partner Brock, or my family. This is about you. Why not you? You may want to invest in real estate, just don't know the how. You may need the cash flow. You may need to learn the how-to of real estate because you may have gotten burnt in the past. You may need the help, and quite honestly, you may just need the motivation, someone to hold you accountable, someone to get you out of bed in the morning, per se, like a personal trainer. I personally don't like to waste money, so if I invest, I'm going to work on getting everything out of it. Tony Robbins said before, repetition is the mother of all skill. It's a derivative of another popular quote, but I believe that. I believe repetition is the mother of all skill. So I do want to go through a second scenario with you to have you understand it. But before doing so, I want to just clarify and show you how we can help you, truly help you. A lot of our students that we talk to, and not just our students, but anybody in the outside world, in the business arena, say there's basically three main components that they attribute their success to. One is the right knowledge, the education, or that how-to, okay? Access to a professional network. So if someone on this training right now, let's say you live in Seattle, but you found a really amazing deal and you need a title company in Orlando, Florida, you may not have someone off the top of your head that you know is a title company. So instead of going through and researching and going through that whole process, have access to our professional network. Let us help you find that right person. And then the last one there is probably, to me, just such an amazing one, is access to a mentor. One of the quotes I had rolling in the very beginning of this, which I have here coming up, I believe, was Richard Branson. And he made a comment about, there's not a businessman or a businesswoman out there that cannot attribute a part of their success to having a mentor. It is so important. Again, learn from a mentor's mistakes. So we have this virtual wholesaling suite that we offer to our students. It is not an out of this world program like you see some of these other education facilities offer. It is really the nuts and bolts of playing the wholesale game. Virtual wholesale ebook, or the workbook rather, hiring process e-guide, finding a remote area. That is awesome, because I mentioned those snowbird states, Arizona, Nevada, Florida. Folks, finding the right area to invest in. I mean, the right area is always in your backyard. It's always the best area, but there's so many lucrative areas in this country that we live in. And then 3 courses there: how to find deals on Craigslist, Facebook, and of course, how to find them and make offers on Zillow. Okay. I'm a visual learner. I learn best by doing and seeing, period. I always joked and said I would be one of the greatest heart surgeons on the planet if my first day of medical school was in the operating room, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But in this case, in real estate, it does. It absolutely can work that way. So that's our wholesaling suite. Ultimately, you'll have an individual login and password to our website. You'll gain instant access where you could literally start today. We're supposed to have some thunderstorms rolling through Pennsylvania and New York today. So if you're in that area, you have the time and the ability to do that. We also have what I call step-by-step everything. Learn from us, learn from your mentors, the right people. We take away the guesswork on what to say on the phone, what to say to cash buyers, what to say to those distressed homeowners, what to say to a virtual assistant, and what the virtual assistants will say to those folks. Email templates, so much more. So I call it step-by-step everything. And this screen here, you're probably wondering, Kev, you really don't need to tell me that it's available 24/7, 365, because it's the internet. But I say that because it's a learning resource. It's a portal for you. Whether you are in, let's say, Hawaii on vacation, or you're visiting family in another state, or you're just 2 hours away at a doctor's appointment, and you need to have access to a contract or access to information that you need to have in order to make a sound decision on that, simply log in on your phone or any computer anywhere. So that's really why I put that screen up there. It's resources at your fingertips. And here's that quote that I mentioned about Richard. He said, if you ask any successful business person, they will always say they had a great mentor at some point along the road. I love Richard Branson. I think whatever he touches turns to gold. He's just an amazing, incredible business person that thinks outside of the box. So if you haven't read one of his books, definitely check it out. But I say that because I personally want to sit here today and offer in this package, which I'm about to show you, a support mechanism. We want to help you. We have weekly updates, a support forum, individual requests that we'll work with you on an individual basis, and 3 deal reviews. You know, that 25-to-1 ratio, when you get to those deals that you're like, I'm ready to propose this deal to a cash buyer, let us look at it. Submit it through our deal review and let us help you with that process, okay? And also, everything we do, we are so confident in our education and the results that you could potentially have by putting the elbow grease into implementing the education. We're offering 100% 14-day money-back guarantee. If this is not for you, folks, call us. We will give you 100% of your money back, no qualms about it. So this whole package typically retails for about $997. It does not include the support mechanism to this, but that's our typical package. If you want to do something today and move forward today, we are offering this package for $197. Consider it our stimulus to you to get things going. It's a very affordable package. $197 includes all that stuff, including the support mechanism, which is huge to some folks. Okay. Never have we offered that before, bar none. $197 for this whole program. Now, think about some of the numbers that we just ran. $4,000 on a wholesale deal. Paul J., that testimonial we had send in, said he made $6,000. Are you willing to invest $197 of your time and money, invest that time to potentially make $3,000, $4,000, $6,000, $10,000? It's a great, great value. As a bonus, and again, this is something I added this morning before we jumped on here, I want to give anyone who enrolls free virtual assistant access, okay? Spend your time making money, spend your time closing deals and spend your time going out there to enjoy life and not worry about training people. Let us gain access to that. So for an additional value of $197, you'll be able to gain access to virtual assistant. If you're ready to move forward, you can click the link, which should be popping up here in the chat bar to the right. Click on that link. It's going to redirect you. hiddenhousesvirtual.com is also the page that you could go to enroll. If you have friends or family that have been interested in it, certainly send them over to Hidden Houses Virtual. This is an amazing price point to get into the business. I spend more at Starbucks or at coffee houses on a monthly basis, probably on a weekly basis, than I do than this particular program. Okay, and again, everything we do comes with what we call our confidence guarantee. Okay, so wholesale scenario number 2. I want to go through just another one to make sure you truly understand it. In the lower right-hand corner there, you'll see the Hidden Houses Virtual website redirect you at any point in time. You could also click on the link if you're ready to go. Again, you also gain instant access. So what we're covering today, you could start today. Okay, so a quick overview. 3 main components: distressed homeowner, the wholesaler, which would be you in this scenario, and then the cash buyer. Okay. In this example, George worked for United Airlines. Again, I want to make this relative to today's market. His wife was a stay-at-home mom of 2 kids. George was furloughed, and he's only making he lost about 60% of what he was normally making. Unemployment doesn't match your salary dollar for dollar. So he is in a distressed spot. He's behind on his mortgage. Therefore, again, significant impact to his credit if they foreclose. Securing a hope of a mortgage in the future is diminished, and loss of equity. So here's the property again. It's an example. It's a scenario. This particular property truly is in a distressed situation, listed as pre-foreclosure. But again, I stress scenario. It does look small from this vantage point, but it's a lot longer than it is normally, or than this picture. You can't really see it from this vantage point, but it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Again, your sweet spot. Very familiar screenshot from the previous house. You'll see that this one is valued at $728,000. So that green box sort of in the middle of the screen. But you'll see in the far right, the home is valued at $141,000. Folks, that is over $500,000 in equity in this property. Okay. So again, we're going to go through and run the numbers here. You have your mortgage balance of about $141,000, your assignment fee of $12,000. Now, that, if you haven't noticed, is it is 3 times what it was on the previous example. So just to show you the amount of equity in the property will help you determine what your profit could be. And then the negotiated profit of $25,000, it is bigger than it was on the last one. We've negotiated $9,000 on the last one, here $25,000. But again, there's a lot more wiggle room, more equity. And then almost $6,000 in closing costs and miscellaneous fees. So this is the part here where you would take that figure there and propose it to a cash buyer. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Cash Buyer, I have a house that's valued at about $728,000. I could offer it to you today for $184,000. Potential profit of $544,000. Okay, depending on what they do with it. And to cover how you get paid, okay, they bring $184,000 to the table. That's their actual cost, okay? The title company accepts that fee. They determine the paperwork. They work out all those finer details. They then disperse the funds accordingly. The mortgage balance of $141,000, let's call it Wells Fargo, Bank of America, it doesn't matter, but they have to have that mortgage paid in full. Then they'll write a check to you for your $12,000 assignment fee, the distressed seller profit of $25,000, and then they divide up the miscellaneous fees. That, folks, is how the process works. You find the home, you run the numbers, you propose it to a cash buyer, and then you close. Okay, you never own the property. You never buy that property. On an assignment deal, you never buy that property. Okay. So wholesaling, remember, I stress, you just made $12,000 on this scenario, okay? And again, if you were the cash buyer, put yourself in that shoes. Would you be willing to pay $12,000 in order to make, in this case here, at the end of the day, over $370,000 in profit? I mean, the answer should be an astounding yes. So folks, there you have it. I went through 2 scenarios. It's just the concept I want you to go through and understand. At the end of the day, for the investment to learn about virtual wholesaling of $197 is an incredible fee to pay, knowing that the return on your investment could be insurmountable. Okay. If you're ready, go ahead. You can go to hiddenhousesvirtual.com. There's also the link on the right side of the page here. At any point in time, you can go ahead and click. I'm going to go ahead and leave this on the screen for a little bit so you can jot it down if you wish. Until then, anything pops up, we are here to help you. This is about you folks. So be safe out there. Enjoy the beautiful weather, should you have any out, wherever you're at. And looking forward to working with you in the future.